Hello, and welcome to the Angus and Pete Show. Views and opinions are strictly those of the presenters and their guests and should not be taken as advice. Goodness knows, we're not qualified to advise you about anything. Side effects may include mild amusement and occasional enlightenment with feelings of embarrassment, apathy, disappointment, and pity.
Welcome to Series 2, Episode 4. I'm Angus Pacey.
And I'm Pete Brown, and we are the Angus and Pete Show.
The place where you can listen to two guys chatting about the riveting world of customer engagement.
Otherwise known as call centre, contact centre, customer service, customer experience, CX, or whatever else you're calling it this week.
And if you want to find out more about us, then just check us out on LinkedIn. Kicking off as we always do. Pete, anything in the post bag?
Yep, a couple of things. First of all, Steve from Atlanta. Steve's a seller, works for one of the recognised vendors in the contact centre space. And he said, I've recently had 2 deals rejected by his buyer's investment board.
Okay.
We sort of heard this before. It reminds me of...
Yeah, what does the CFO look at?
But this time he said something quite specific. I have a sneaky suspicion that my champion failed to deliver a decent justification. He won't admit it. He's saying he couldn't do anything about it. But Steve said that he's heard from other sources that his champion dropped the ball. And he's asking, what can I do to avoid it next time?
I think ultimately it's all about coaching your champion and making sure that whoever they are have got all the right information to talk to those different stakeholders to get it signed off. A good one to look at in the future, because we've talked about this. We've got some ideas about it. So let's see. Keep listening. We'll do something in the future.
I also had another contact. I bumped into a lady I know, Emma from Guildford. I saw her at the CC Expo, which happened a few weeks ago in London. And she asked me if we're going to do an event review like the one we did last year. And I'm glad you asked me that, Emma, because the answer is yes, and we're going to do it this time round in this episode. So hang on for just a few moments. Angus.
This episode we're going to talk about CC Expo. You were there, you've got some detail on that one. And then there are a couple of press articles that have come out in the last couple of weeks that are really interesting that discuss artificial intelligence, but also how it's changing customer service and professional services. So we'll talk about that after you have given us a very good overview and your impressions and considered opinion of CC Expo. What was that like?
Well, this year I just went up for the day. So I didn't go up for 2 days and spend one night drinking heavily with people I may or may not know. So I had clarity and focus. And I actually enjoyed it. It was a bit of an improvement on last year, I have to say. For those of you that don't know, CC Expo, Call and Contact Centre Expo, is the big show for our industry, CX and Contact Centre, based in London. Happened on the 19th and 20th of November. And it's attended by a big UK audience, but also quite a lot of people from Europe and further afield. The organisers will tell you that there were between 120 and 150 exhibitors. I counted them all. There were 113. There were around 90 speaking sessions. I didn't listen to them all, but I listened to a lot. And guess what, Angus? You'll be surprised to hear that there was a very strong focus on AI-driven customer journeys, omnichannel engagement, and agent productivity. The event mixed large vendor showcases, smaller niche vendors. The seminar theatres were actually very busy. There were lots of live demos. Obviously networking and people walking around trying to find a new job and all that other stuff that goes on. Basically, it gave a good overview of the state of the nation when it comes to the industry.
What were the big themes of this one? Because last year, it was just AI.
AI is still the dominant topic. There were a couple of exceptions, actually, going back to basics. There was one company selling branded text messaging and branded voice calls. So it's like the blue tick, if you will, on social media. So if it's from the NHS or your car dealership or your bank, you'll get their logo. Same with the voice call, branded voice calls. Actually quite basic tech. No one's using it, but I think it's really important. It's not AI at all, but it's all about building trust. It cuts through the scam. There was also another company that was doing a really cheap and cheerful quality monitoring, quality management product. And they said it's flying off the shelf. But AI and automation were the dominant themes, especially around generative AI, virtual agents, augmenting human agents rather than replacing them, was thick in the air when it came to messaging and conversations.
So what was different? What was different this year? What stood out?
I got the strong impression that the vendors, the sellers, are fully aware that many buyers are struggling to realise the promise of AI in CX. You know, those 2 letters AI were out there, but I noticed they're now accompanied by another word.
What is that?
Hype. You speak to vendors in the presentations, the speakers were saying it, the people on the stands were saying it. We need to cut through the hype. There's a lot of hype around AI. We're going to talk to you about what it can really deliver. Hype, hype, hype. So it hasn't stopped them hyping it, but at least we're now acknowledging that there might be a lot of fluff around this stuff, and we really need to cut to the chase at some point to deliver the business benefit.
So if they're talking about hype, that says to me it's about making things real and realizing the benefits of that.
Yeah.
How much of the tech that everybody was talking about did you actually see on the stand?
I have to say, the demo landscape was a lot better this year, putting yourself in the shoes of the buyer. Last year, it was all about, this is what the tech does, my language model's bigger than your language model, blah, 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 blah. This year, it was much more about application and what it does, although everything was really focused on narrow use cases.
Okay.
In all of that, though, the focus was on efficiency and cost saving from what I could see. There was very little about the customer experience, the consumer experience, and benefits to people contacting organisations. That wasn't clear, and I think that's where the balance needs to shift a bit.
So I was reading an analyst report last night, and one of the things that they highlighted in the report, that in different markets, the way consumers interact with the tech is very, very different. So if you look at South Africa as an example, chat is predominant, and that's where most people go. In the US, in the UK, in European markets, probably slightly different. Did you see the same recognition in the vendors this time, that people don't always want to use voice, they want to use chat, they want to use different channels to interact?
I did, and there was a lot more information about the channels available and how they can be AI enabled. However, voice was a thing. There was a lot of talk about AI voice agents, but in the whole of the room, in the whole of those 113 exhibitors, only one had a live demo on their stand.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I think what's happening is that AI is quite easy to do from an engineering perspective in digital channels. You know, things like latency, performance, bandwidth, clarity are easy to manage. If you want to use voice as a channel, and let's face it, we just spent a whole few episodes talking about why that's still important, then that brings engineering challenges, latency challenges, and you also got to be quite careful about how you interact with people and tee people up. The demo that I experienced, it was very amusing. They had some use cases, and one of these use cases was London. It just said London. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. So I clicked on the screen and it started to talk to me, and it did so in the worst Cockney accent you're ever going to hear. But it was talking to me. It was calling me mate. It was very friendly, a very cheeky, chirpy Cockney character, and gave me some useful information. And then I said to it, do you know what, mate? I need to get me barnet cut. I'm going to shoot down the old Frog and Toad and have a look around. Can you give me some information on where I might get that done? And with that, it went into a flat spin and broke. So if you're going to meet people where they are and pretend that you understand their culture and identify with them at a very personal level, like the accent of your voice, have a bit of depth to the story. That's all I'm saying. But it was very amusing. And actually, this vendor did it very well. This is the art of the possible. This is where we're going. Go and have an experience of it. At least they had the courage to demonstrate their technology.
I think what's interesting to that one is that, we've said it many times, sometimes when you're talking to people and you're trying to show things out, keep it simple and make it relatable and don't overcomplicate it.
There were a few vendors there that have got broader AI capabilities outside of CX. You know, the big names, the hyperscalers, the big traditional IT companies, they're in this space. What I noticed with them is they're the ones that are starting to talk about the barriers to adopting AI, business readiness, how the ability to perform at scale will be crucial moving forward, particularly when it comes to AI-powered voice channels. That was something I didn't see last year. In fact, I think we called it out. Everyone was talking about the great stuff and no one was talking about the risks. Those with the broader capabilities were talking about the barriers to adoption, and also they were talking about the risks. And they were using slides with things like data misuse, unauthorized surveillance, data breach, profiling, autonomous operation, reliability, safety, discrimination, bias, freedom of expression, right to work, and access to justice in this growing list of shit that people who want to use AI have got to worry about. But do you know what? at least we're having the conversation, because we weren't last year.
It also means that they start to think about the business implications of deploying this.
Well, what they're starting to think about is, why isn't anyone buying this shit? We need to start nailing this stuff down, is what they're really thinking. But anyway, there we go. I learned 2 new acronyms because we haven't got enough in our industry. So MCP and A2A. Any ideas?
I know them both because I've been living, eating and breathing them.
So MCP, Model Context Protocol. And basically, it's the open standard that tries to define how models connect to external tools, so data sources and whatnot, so that systems are consistent and secure as well. Standardization's creeping in. The other one that I like the sound of, but I can't help thinking it might overcomplicate and blow some people's minds, is the whole thing around A2A, which commonly means agent to agent and is sometimes A2A orchestration or A2A communication. What's important here is the agent in A2A is not a contact center agent. It's the AI agent. So this is about really using clusters of AI agents to do specific parts of a task and hand it off to other parts. It's supposed to improve scalability, reliability, security. Yeah, it sounds like an IT wizard's dream.
It's an interesting one. Everybody's talking about it. I always look at this and I go, what happens if the first agent hallucinates and then propagates that?
One of the vendors I was talking to said, well, we've got a guardrail agent and its job is just to police the other agents. So, again, it's maturing. People have thought about it. The architectures are coming out. And I'm sure this stuff has been existing in labs and in development environments for years, but we're now talking about it and people are understanding it. So I liked that. Then we come to the elephant in the room, pricing. It's still a murky business. The commercial models are all over the place, and buyers who really need to get a handle on total cost of ownership are in for a tough time. Because it's not just about the acquisition of the technology, which, by the way, is still on a consumer model, and you've got no visibility of costs moving forward, but you've got all the internal costs as well. I don't know how that's going to shake down, but vendors have got a big part to play in that. I had a conversation with a guy who was very clever, very esteemed person who'd obviously been in AI for years. We were talking about cost, and he says, you know what, one of the things that we didn't see coming, but is now real, is as you make AI models, it doesn't matter whether they're text or voice, but as you make them more engaging, more natural, humans are becoming more engaged and more natural with them, and they're becoming polite and chatty when they use it.
So they just start waffling.
Conversations are starting to contain a lot of padding and fluff. What this is actually doing is 2 things. It's extending the interaction time, but really importantly, it's burning up AI processing tokens.
Oh, that's going to be costly.
So I was thinking about this on the train home. I think, how do you deal with that? Well, the way you deal with that is with structure. Like IVR. Press 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for that. There's a reason for it, right? Are we really going to go around this loop again and have AI saying, hi, Angus, I could talk to you like a normal human being, but that's too expensive. So can you just tell me what you want? Is it 1 this, 2 that, 3 that? I bet you we're not far away because the cost will dictate that structure. I just thought that was an interesting one. Back to basics.
It will come.
All in all, I think an improvement on last year, but a long way to go.
It's evolving, and it's evolving rapidly. What's interesting listening to you is that when you talk about what you saw and what everybody was talking about, it's kind of being mirrored in the press. Looking at the 2 articles that we've highlighted that we'll talk about now, they kind of line up with what you just said.
Tell us about that first article. Where does it come from?
First article comes from CMS Wire, and it's titled AI Flips the Script on Contact Centers. And it gives you a pretty good overview of what the shift is. We'll put the link to the article in the show notes as well, so people can go back and read it.
So I had a look at it. Contact centers, once viewed as simply a cost burden, are now being redefined by AI and advanced analytics, moving from reactive support hubs to proactive engines, revenue growth, loyalty, and brand building.
There's a bit of stating the bleedingly obvious, but for decades we've seen contact centers being regarded as necessary expenses, but very rarely do they make a big contribution to the bottom line. This article definitely highlights sources that confirm that AI is turning the insights that you can get out of contact centers into measurable impact and return on investment. Now, return on investment, debatable, but savings more than anything else. If you look at the key points in the article that are driving the transformation, the first thing they think about is revenue generation. Is the contact center a revenue generation engine now?
When it comes to AI being rolled out seriously, less than a third of organisations globally are actually doing it. But progressive organisations are viewing contact centre as a revenue generation engine, and therefore they're changing what they measure. We've been doing this a long time, and the traditional focus was purely on efficiency metrics like, average handle time, an abandon rate, and there'll be an SLA for answering calls. All they do is tell you whether your people and your tech's operating. It doesn't really tell you what the outcome is. So there seems to be a big shift in focus to outcome-based metrics. Things like upselling success, customer retention, customer lifetime value.
The potential revenue impact to the business could be huge. They cite McKinsey, and they said that inbound customer service centers have the potential to contribute up to 25% of total new revenues for credit card companies, for example. And if you go to service providers and telcos, they say it could be up to 60%. Now, that's a big change when your revenue is starting to come through those mechanisms. There's also significant change in where revenue generation is become a focus for organizations. In 2016, it was a top priority for 5% of the respondents, but by 2023, it was top priority for more than a third. Now, that's a significant shift. The second thing that they talk about is unlocking the gold mine that is the hidden data in the contact center, data utilization. Contact centers have always had vast amounts of valuable data, what you could see as pain points or competitive threats. We all know traditionally organizations found it very difficult to actually get those insights, mainly because they were doing very limited sampling of maybe 1 or 2% of the calls when they just looked at it for quality purposes.
AI completely changes the balance of that equation. We know with advanced analytics and machine learning and all of the fine engineering that's going on, we can now see that 100% of consumer interactions in real time, all the time, every time, to very high levels of accuracy. You've got instant fraud detection, you've got the instant ability to spot opportunities for product innovation or identify traits with top performing agents or even top performing consumers, all derived instantly from a conversation already happening.
Yeah, it is mad. The other thing that the article looks at is what are the measurable returns on investment and efficiency? And I think this is not a theoretical discussion. Financial returns already proven, they kind of intimate. I would question that. But the global contact center AI market's growing rapidly. Projections say it's going to be about 12-13 billion by 2030. That means there's an expectation that there has to be a financial return on this investment.
Some of our listeners could be forgiven for thinking we've got a complete downer on AI and it's just not working as far as we're concerned. That's not the case. It's just not working for everybody all the time. Organisations that are doing it properly, organisations that are able to invest and get the most out of their investment, according to this article, are reporting return on investments of 3.5 times. So for every dollar or pound they invest, they're getting $3.50 back, which is significant. That works in any boardroom. The accountants are going to be happy with that. A lot of that's based on efficiency gains. Companies using generative AI-enabled customer service agents have seen a 14% increase in issue resolution per hour. Really tangible. At the same time, 9% reduction in the time spent handling those issues. So doing more and reducing the time to do it, that's where those returns come from.
Yeah, and then final thing that the article covers is building brand equity. They put it as conversation by conversation. This comes back to something that we've spoken about many times. It's about building trust, making sure that the interaction contributes towards building your brand. The article says the contact center experience shapes customer perceptions much more powerfully than advertising.
Yeah.
I mean, ask Nate. It doesn't matter what the DMV says, he knows what it's like. Positive experiences always reinforce loyalty because people will tell other people. But at the same time, sources in the article say that 92% of customers will abandon a company after just 2 or 3 negative interactions. And I think that's true. Now, some you can't abandon. Unfortunately, I've tried to abandon the tax man. It doesn't work. He keeps on coming back.
The article basically says that AI is solving for inconsistency by enforcing quality. It's much quicker and more agile at reviewing situations and suggesting remedy. And ultimately, it can do that across 100% of interactions all the time. So it can scale, it can see what previously couldn't be seen, analyse it and suggest actions.
So I think the conclusion in this article is pretty simple. The potential for deploying AI and getting benefits is massive. But the execution, quite often, that's where the problem lies. And if your execution's poor, then you're not going to see the benefits.
Despite that compelling business case, this article actually says only 25% of contact centres have successfully integrated AI automation. With the successful implementations following several best practices, they start with clear objectives, tied to business outcomes, not just let's do it faster and spend some money on tech. And crucially, they involve their agents, their people, early, positioning AI as an enabler, as a tool to make their work more rewarding, not as a replacement or as a surveillance mechanism. We've already got a lot of surveillance mechanisms in contact centres already. We don't need any more.
No, we don't. The message that the article delivers is fairly blunt. The shift from cost centre to profit centre is happening right now. And if organisations are still viewing support through the cost reduction lens, they are going to miss opportunities, but they're also going to end up really with a competitive disadvantage.
It's a double whammy.
Yeah.
So thanks for that CMS wire. That gave us something to talk about. Tell us about the next article, Angus.
So the second article comes from Fast Company. How AI-powered services are rewriting business models. And it highlights how AI is transforming core professional services organizations, showing that AI has shifted the balance for firms that rely purely on billable hours.
In summary, it says that for years, service firms grew by, hiring more people, filling a room up with suits. That was it. It's all about billable hours, as you said. But AI has fundamentally shifted that balance. It's making growth less about increasing headcount and much more about enhancing value and operational excellence. The whole new approach should allow service firms to be more creative and effective, going beyond simple profitability.
There is definitely a new equation for profitability. The old service industry equation was more staff equals more billable hours equals more revenue. And there have been some articles in the press around this. I think it was some of the big consultancy firms got nailed in Australia for this, where customers are starting to clock on to the fact that AI is changing what the customer's actually paying for.
So with AI handling the repetitive work, the model's no longer about how many hours. It's not about how long you're there. It's about the quality, the insight, the creativity and the impact of your output, which should translate into stronger margins and growth opportunities for the professional services organisations. I don't know. I'm not sure whether they see it that way. What makes me smile about the professional services consultancy type organisations is, for years, their job has been telling organisations how to be agile, how to change in the face of moving goalposts. Well, it's your turn now, boys. It's time to start drinking your own champagne. Let's see how agile you can be in this new market.
The article highlights good examples of how this is going to change. AI is not replacing expertise, it's sharpening it, giving customers better results than human effort alone. Human in the loop. So it's not going to replace human, but it's going to change their role.
Take the legal field. Contract reviews are notoriously, or were notoriously painful. They would take weeks or months to get sorted out. Now, AI, quick triage, quick read through, it's flagging issues for lawyers, solicitors, attorneys to evaluate right off the bat, which means that lawyers are spending much less time, but the quality of their output is higher.
In marketing, same thing. Teams now can use AI and evaluate campaigns in real time as those results come in, so they don't need to wait weeks for traditional reports. So they can see instantly which messages or visuals or content are resonating with the audience, and they can tune in real time as well. So it's going to become a lot quicker.
So the article flagged up the legal field, it flagged up marketing, it also flagged up architecture and architects. I don't know much about this, but actually when they explain it, it's pretty obvious. You know, when you sit down with a client, you give them options. In the past, helping your client to understand the difference between those options in terms of cost, energy performance, compliance, regulation, all of those things was quite a difficult thing. Now AI is doing all the heavy lifting, it's doing the educating, it's doing the presentation of the differences, and that just gives architects a much more time refining ideas and focusing on the truly creative side of what they do and make sure they build something that isn't going to fall over.
There is a risk of falling behind. The article paints a picture of businesses either moving quickly or dragging their feet. And if they're hesitating, there's a risk there. Those that deploy AI will get the rewards. as long as they commit to it, they don't experiment.
Yeah.
They cite a couple of interesting stats. They're saying around 3/4 of companies are still stuck in pilot projects. And shockingly, more than 40% of companies abandon most of their AI initiatives in this year, so 2025.
Goodness.
Which was up sharply from the year before. And when I read this, I just took it as more people are experimenting and are figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So I think that could be slightly misleading. But I think the interesting one was firms with clear strategies are twice as likely to see revenue growth from AI compared to those who just dabble in it.
What the article also said, 95% of generative AI pilots fail to deliver measurable impact merely because organisations are tacking it onto their old processes. We've said this. We could be writing these articles ourselves, Angus. We've already said this. If you're going to take your old crap and AI enable it, you're just going to have faster, more efficient, overanalyzed crap. Success comes only when businesses have the courage to rethink the entire thing and not just dabble around the edges. I'm beginning to feel like a broken record.
So, thanks to CMS Wire and Fast Company for those 2 articles. I think they were very interesting. What are the takeaways from our discussion today, Pete?
Number 1, AI redefines value. It's not just about cutting costs.
We've had a shift from efficiency metrics to value and outcome metrics. I think that's important. AI's real power isn't about reducing agents. It's about transforming them into strategic revenue generators, making them more effective, and also moving them from basic tasks to complex, high-value interactions that need some empathy and creativity.
The second takeaway for me was data is the new revenue stream. We've already got a lot of data in our world of contact centres, but AI really provides the 100% real-time, always-on analysis of conversations, of activities, turning everything into that lovely phrase, actionable insights. And this is all hugely valuable to businesses that haven't been able to see the wood for the trees for years. This is now making it all very transparent and all very clear. Then you've got to be able to do something with it.
The third one for me is implementation needs that strategic view and that mindset. It's not just about the technology. You can't simply succeed by tacking AI onto old broken processes, making more efficient crap faster. Successful organizations start with clear business objectives tied to revenue or retention, and then iterate based on measurable pilots. Crucially, ensure your agents are involved and trust the technology, because they will not adopt it if they don't trust it.
And the fourth takeaway, adapt or accept competitive disadvantage. The transformation's already underway. Last series we said transformation's a scary word. Well, it is a scary word. Be afraid, be very afraid, but it's now required. Transformational thinking is required to make this whole AI thing work for businesses. Those who hesitate or fail to move past those small-scale pilots and playground exercises risk losing a lot of ground very quickly. And consumers have got a really good nose for organisations that are lagging behind and not making their technology work effectively.
So, AI is acting as a massive competitive pressure plate. It's forcing companies to move away from that old school legacy thinking, when success was measured by how many people you employed or how long a task took. But in future, success is going to be measured by quality, speed, and the impact of what you're delivering. It's a race to redefine expertise, and the time is to start now.
We'll be back next time with episode 5.
In the meantime, follow the Angus and Pete Show page on LinkedIn for news and notifications, and please message us directly to tell us what you want us to talk about, how we're doing, and keep that post bag bulging.
The show is available on all of your favourite podcast platforms, so listen, like, subscribe, and share to help us spread the good word and feed our egos.
Pete.
Yes, Angus.
It's that time of
the
week. What is the joke of the week this week?
I've got a knock-knock joke which requires your participation.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
The interrupting sheep.
The interrupting sheep.
Ah! Cheers, Angus.
Cheers, Pete.
Thanks for tuning in to the Angus and Pete Show. Remember, it's based on the personal views and opinions of the hosts and their guests. If you're feeling aggrieved or litigious, take a chill pill. There's already enough stress in the world. Don't Don't forget to follow our page on LinkedIn and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform for more episodes. We'll see you next time. Oh, and tell your friends.